it's Ruby, and today I'm going to be filming a video which I have been meaning to film for such a long time and which I have got quite a few requests to do, and that is how to revise for religious studies. So I am studying for my A2 level religious studies examination, and I am studying with the OCR board. So these tips are specific to that. However, I'm sure that it could be applied to other religious studies specifications or theology, philosophy, ethics courses. And before I get started, I don't mean to say this boastfully, I don't want this to come across in the wrong way, but I want to let you know that the tips that I use actually do work. I used them last year when revising for my AS level exams, and I came out with an A in religious studies and 100% in the ethics paper. So hopefully if you follow these revision tips too, you can do well in your A-level examinations. If you're studying the same religious studies board as I am, then you will already know this, but if you are not, then I'm just going to quickly run you through the two assessment objectives which we have in religious studies, because if I mention them later on, at least you'll know what I'm talking about. So there's AO1 and AO2. And AO1 refers to content and AO2 refers to analysis. So I'm going to start off by telling you how I learn a single topic, and then I will be going on to more general revision tips which I have. So I actually have a set format in how I go about with learning each topic, and it's a 10-step process, so it does take quite a while. However, once I've gone through this, I do know the topic. So the first thing that I will do is write up my notes, and I like to have long, very detailed notes for religious studies because there are so many little bits which turn out to be useful. Even though you might not end up needing everything, it's really useful to have everything condensed in one place, which you can then refer to when you are writing essays and if you want any extra facts. So I recommend doing this. With other subjects, I know that it's useful to just write very specific, very to the point notes, but with RS, A-level, I definitely recommend having a long set of meaty notes which you can go back to. In terms of writing your notes, I really recommend doing some extra research because it's important to have scholars and alternate readings for the AO2 component, multifaceted argument. So on the OCR spec, at the bottom of each topic, it actually outlines a few texts and people that you can look into, and I do recommend looking at these people. You might not look at all of it because there are quite a few books on that reading list, but I recommend having a look into little bits if you feel like you don't have that much content on a particular topic. It's also useful to look in the news because there are often some key debates which are actually applicable to the essays that you're doing, especially in the theology topics. You will have a store of articles and news stories which you can apply to your essays. One thing that you can use to keep up to date with this news is to use Flipboard, which my English teacher actually told me about and which is so helpful for keeping up to date with news for specific topics. So you can either make your own or follow specific Flipboards, which are basically a collection of different news articles. So this one here is Christianity, but you could also follow them for ethics, for philosophy, and since one of the topics is euthanasia, I decided to follow that as well, because I think it's quite useful to analyse how relevant these theories remain today, and current events are a great way to answer that question. So yes, tip 1 is to read widely and deeply in order to make a set of really great revision notes. So number 2 is to make sure that you understand everything. This is particularly the case with philosophy topics and in particular analytical theories which use logic. You want to make sure that you understand the argument which somebody is proposing, because otherwise you're not going to be able to write about it and you're not going to have strong control over the material when you're writing an essay. If you don't understand a topic, there are so many great resources which you can find online. So for example, if you don't understand the ontological argument, searching up ontological argument PowerPoint, or going on YouTube and having a look for some videos explaining it, or maybe asking your teacher to go through it again with you. So the third thing that I will then do is make an essay using all of my material, and this is going to be my exemplar essay, and this will usually be quite long, maybe 6 to 7 pages, and it will include everything on the spec, all of the extra reading I've done, so that I have everything in one place and I can actually see how it links together. The fourth thing that I will do is mark the essay, so I will send this to my teacher and ask them to look through it and give me a grade for it, and also give me some feedback on how I can improve it. And the fifth thing, after receiving a mark for this essay and feedback and making those corrections, is to apply this essay to a Quizlet. So for each of my paragraphs in the essay, I will have a card, and on that card I will just write down the key things that I want to write about. This is really useful because when you write essays later, not all of this information is going to be relevant, but it means that you can learn all of the information and then you have a stronger grasp over it, and you can also again see how everything links together. Number 6 is to go through and learn these flashcards, of course. Then the 7th thing is writing essay plans, which is actually usually the main bulk of my religious studies revision. I really love making essay plans and I find that they're really helpful, predominantly because they're not as time consuming as the normal 40-minute essays, and they don't require as much brain power. So I'm often asked how I make my essay plans, and it's a really easy structure. Basically, I will number each of my paragraphs. So I'll say number 1, introduction, number 2, Descartes' cogito ergo sum, number 3, criticisms of this, number 4, Descartes' argument for the existence of the body, and then as sub-bullet points of this, I will write the things that I would include in that paragraph. And it's really important to do full sentences because again it just helps with linking. So I will do loads of these essay plans and I will find some really tricky questions. I'll try and find the trickiest questions that I can and then write essay plans for these so that I know that I can apply my knowledge to a range of different topics and questions. It means that I have stronger control over the material and I'm able to work with it more fluidly, which ultimately means that when I'm writing an essay in my actual examination, it's much easier for me to connect the information and the AO1 to the title, which allows for me to analyse the information and apply it to the title. And I will use the specification in order to come up with these essay titles. So for example, in the pluralism and society topic, scriptural reasoning is one of the bullet points. So I would write an essay with just scriptural reasoning in the title, but then try and incorporate all of my information and everything on the spec into that one essay. Try and make the essay titles tricky. That's my main tip, because there's no point doing loads of easy essays. Ultimately, it's not going to be useful for you. Oh, and I forgot to say that I do these essay plans without notes. So this is after you've learnt the material, so it's really testing you on how much of the knowledge you can actually remember, as well as how well you can link it to a question. So the 8th thing that I will do is then compare my essay plan that I've done without notes to my original notes and see if I missed out anything important, if I couldn't remember any quotes accurately or any books or any dates, and then I will add to the essay plan in blue. So blue is my universal colour for things that I have forgotten, so it's really easy for me to identify it when I'm revising. So then the 9th thing is to make another Quizlet set, and I put the things that I didn't remember into this Quizlet set. And then I'm just revising the things that I couldn't remember before. So I will have one Quizlet set which has everything that I'm finding tricky to remember, and then I can just go through this regularly so that I know all the information. And then the 10th thing, after doing all of that, is to start writing timed essays for that topic. And by this point I am completely secure with the material and I'm able to apply it to different questions, and so writing timed essays becomes easier. However, it's important to write the timed essays because in a pressurized environment, when you're working to the clock, everything suddenly becomes so much trickier. So I really recommend doing timed essays. So that's how I learn a particular topic, but now I'm just going to go on to giving you a few general tips. So the first thing that I want to say is to do timed paragraphs for religious studies. So regularly do timed practice. So I might give myself 5 minutes to write one paragraph on one of the topics, and this just helps me to work to those time constraints, and I find it to be really useful. The second thing is to do essay plans frequently, just to make sure that you keep up to date with the knowledge. I try to do at least one essay plan every day for a different topic, and it's really useful. It works for me. Third thing is to do timed essays frequently, because again it is good for exam practice, especially when you are getting really close to the end of your exams. And then the fourth thing is to check the spec when you are revising and when you are doing essay plans and when you are doing essays, so that you know if any additional hurdles come out, you are able to identify them and then actively tackle them. So that all of my key religious studies Studies revision tips. I hope that you find them useful, and I hope that they help you in revising for Religious Studies A-level. If you would like me to do a video on how to write religious studies essays, then please let me know, because I'd be happy to share some tips. Likewise, if you would like me to do a video on how to revise for English and how to write English essays, again let me know in the comments.